Another thing about Oregon to know that is a negative thing is the national. If you're considering relocating to Salem, Oregon, you are going to want to listen to today's video until the very end, because I'm going to share some things that are very important that you need to know before you move here or even consider moving here. And the very last two are my personal favorites, so be sure to stay until the end. You're not going to want to miss that. And we also have some negative things in there, so like towards the end as well, some things that you need to know that you might not like so much about Salem. So guys, if you're new here, welcome. My name's Mariah. I've lived in Salem, Oregon my entire life. I'm a lifelong Oregonian. I've been a full-time real estate agent since 2015, and my husband Spencer and I run a top producing husband and wife real estate team here in the area. And we get calls, texts, and emails from people like you that are watching our YouTube videos and want to work with us all the time. So if that's you, we'd love to work with you. I will put my contact information below. Shoot me an email and we can get a call, a Zoom call or a phone call on the schedule and talk about the next steps. Okay, so guys, the first thing that you need to know if you are thinking about relocating to or just moving to Salem, Oregon, buying a house in Salem, Oregon is maybe you already live here even, and like a lot of our clients are relocating here from out of state and have never been here before, and many of them don't come here till after closing, but a lot of them that find us on YouTube also do already live here and are just buying a house. So whatever boat that you find yourself in, this applies to, I believe, if you're wanting to buy in Salem, is that the first thing to know is that Salem itself might not be the best town for you. There are many towns on the outskirts of Salem in pretty much every direction that are really, really awesome. There's some charming towns. There's towns with lower home prices that are just like a 15-minute, some of them, drive to Salem. There are towns in literally every direction, which I won't go into in this video. I did a video recently actually talking about some of the top affordable towns to move to, especially for like first-time buyers, but for anyone that are a little bit more affordable around Salem. So if you would like more information on that, go find that video on my channel, or I can link it below. So I won't go in depth on the different towns in this video, but just know there are towns in every different direction surrounding Salem. Some are going to be larger than others and smaller than others in population size. Some are going to have higher and lower average, sale price than others. However, many of these towns are going to be USDA eligible, which, if you're not familiar, the USDA loan means that if you qualify for it, you can put $0 down on your house. And this is really cool because we have helped a lot of home buyers over the years use a USDA loan, put $0 of their own money down, all the while asking for the seller to pay for their closing costs. So they are literally buying a house with no money from their own pocket, and then they turn around and sell it a few years later and make a really great profit after living there for a couple years. The thing with the USDA loan, though, again, like, I'm not a lender, I can't give too much information on this, but I can point you to a very solid lender in the area if you would like. So reach out to me if you would like the information to, in my opinion, the best lender in all of the Salem area, who we trust very much. But my whole point in saying all of this is that the $0 down loan does require that you are in a more rural area. Salem itself is not eligible. You cannot buy a house with that loan inside of Salem city limits, but there's towns in, like I said, every different direction, some closer, some 15 minutes, some an hour out, that are great towns, and they're USDA eligible. So if you want to talk more about it, if you want to set up a Zoom call and talk about different towns in the area or anything like that, the buying process, let me know. I'm here to help you. Okay, so the next thing that you need to know if you are thinking about moving to Salem is, if you're used to living somewhere with high humidity, then you're in for a treat, because we really don't see a lot of humidity at all, really ever, here in Salem. We really do not see that here. I would say the weather is pretty mild. I think we're known for our rain. Right now it is a sunny but probably like 40-degree day. Yeah, it's like 41 degrees right now. My car says it's like a 41-degree and sunny day. This is very common in January, the time of filming this. If you're gonna be living in Oregon, you gotta get used to, you gotta buy some good rain gear, good raincoats, and just get used to needing to bundle up if you're gonna go still enjoy the outdoors, because I think that's really important. And thankfully we have been getting quite a few like sunny days, although it's been cold. It's been very cold. We do get plenty of rain, don't get me wrong, but there are breaks in between the rain where it's like this. It's cold but sunny and you can go outside. In the Salem area, it doesn't snow very often. It might snow every like few years or so. Maybe we'll get a snowstorm. We had snow last year, but it was pretty weak. Like, I think it only lasted a couple days and it wasn't that much. But we do get snow every now and then, but it's not a big thing by any means. If it does come, it's here for a couple days and then it leaves, and then we generally don't see any more the rest of the year. And a lot of times they call it snow, but it's more like frost. Like, it's not crazy. There are mountains in a couple different directions that are only about an hour, hour and a half, hour and 45-minute drive, depending on which one you go to from here, and you can easily get to the snow, go snowboarding, skiing. What I think is important to talk about is the weather in the summer. So we have clients who move here specifically for the summer weather, especially clients moving from Arizona. That has seemed to be a hot spot that a lot of clients, hot spot, get it, it's hot there, but also like a hot spot because a lot of our clients have moved here from Arizona, and something that we hear often from them is they want their kids to play outside during the day in the summer. They want to be able to go swimming during the day and also go on a hike during the day. Those are all things that generally in summer in Oregon you're able to do, at least in the Willamette Valley. It's, I would say, perfect weather because it's warm enough you can swim, for example, but it's not so hot that you can't go on a hike during the day during the summer most days. We get a few like extremely hot days, but that's not the norm. It's usually like 80s. I don't know. I feel like 80s is pretty normal. My biggest complaint about the weather in the Salem/Willamette Valley area is I just think it takes too long to become summer. I always consider June, like we get our warm days in June, don't get me wrong. There's definitely going to be enough like days you can lay by the pool if you want to, or just get outside and like bask in the sun and it's actually sunny. However, there's still rain most years in June, and it doesn't usually stop until July. I would say our rainy season ends at the end of June usually, and then our non-rainy season is like July, August, September, October, and then we're moving on into the rain. So personally, I'd like the rain to stop a little sooner. Usually by June I'm like super over it, but that's just my personal preference. Another thing to note about the weather is that if it does snow in the Willamette Valley area, from my experience, as long as I've lived here, which has been my whole life, if it does snow, oddly enough, it's usually a little bit later in the year. You would expect, I mean, in my mind, I expect snow to come in like November, December, because it's like Christmas time. That's when you want it to snow. It usually pretty much never snows then. If it's gonna snow, it's like February. I remember a good handful of times growing up where it snowed in March. And so that is one downside. Because if it's gonna snow, you know, I feel like you'd rather it be earlier in the year when it's Christmas time and not later. But for some reason, I don't know why, in the Willamette Valley, it seems to always snow a little bit later than we would like, but that's okay. It doesn't, like I said, snow is not a big thing here. There are some flood zones in Salem. The majority of the houses that are in flood zones in Salem are going to be downtown Salem. You're probably not going to be moving downtown Salem. You're probably not buying a house there. You might be, but it's really going to be like 1 or 2% of all the houses in Salem that are in flood zones, but it's important to know. However, that is something your realtor and your lender should be letting you know when you go look at the house, or before you even go look at the house for that matter, if it's in a flood zone or not, because obviously if you need flood insurance, that can quite drastically affect your monthly payment because flood insurance is very, very expensive. So while the high majority of Salem houses are not in flood zones, there is a small area that could be in a flood zone. The next thing to know if you're moving to the Salem area from out of state is that Oregon is so much more than Portland. And the reason I say this is because, like I said earlier, many of our clients that are relocating here have never been to Oregon before, and they don't come here till after they close oftentimes on their home, which is crazy, but it happens all the time. I was even on a call the other day with a real estate agent in another state who was telling me about, you know, what her thoughts are on Oregon and what she knows about Oregon, and just how it's just such a negative picture in her mind because all she's ever heard about is Portland. And I just feel like I need to add, first of all, I do think the news has Portland wrong. I think everything I've seen on the news about Portland has been negative. And I can even remember back to when there were riots going on, and it just was like a really dark time there. And that's all you saw on the news. And I was going there myself during that time. It was not the same in person like it was on the news. So I just want to add that, like, obviously things are exaggerated and all of that. But I do want to say Portland, for one, as someone who has lived in Salem my whole life, which is only about an hour from Portland, an hour south of Portland, I've gone there on a very consistent basis, like every, couple months or so for some reason. whether it's to do a fun experience, something or whatever. Like there's just more to do there, and there's things that go on there that aren't happening in Salem. So as someone who's gone there on a very consistent basis my whole life, but hasn't lived there, I view it as a very unique and super beautiful city with honestly a lot to do, even for kids, a lot for families. I just think of it as such a cool, unique, and beautiful, very beautiful Pacific Northwest city that's like one of a kind, and have a lot of love for it. However, I know a lot of people don't like it, and there's a lot of negativity around it on the news and whatnot, but just know the most of Oregon is not like Portland. Like the most of Oregon is like Portland is one area in Oregon that I feel like gets so much of the news, and like so many people that I talk to, when they hear when they hear I'm from Oregon, all they know is Portland. But it's maybe not always the best representation, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because there's so much more to Oregon than Portland. It's just one spot. Yes, it's where a ton of people live because it's like the biggest city in Oregon, but Salem is the capital, and it's very, very different. Very different vibes. We do not have the traffic that you have in Portland. We do not have the home prices. Home prices are so much cheaper in Salem than in Portland. We don't have to live with the crazy high rent and home prices like in Portland. We don't have to deal with the crazy traffic here in Salem, but we still get to live only a quick hour drive, which means you can easily go there for a dinner or an event that's going on there, a basketball game or whatever it is, like shopping, whatever that looks like for you. So I guess my whole point is, one, Portland, although there are maybe some negative aspects to it, like there are to any city, and I know the news makes it sound so dangerous. Obviously there's certain areas you want to avoid in any city. I don't think of it as super dangerous. I have good thoughts of Portland, and I've always had really good experiences there. Just know that Salem is very different than Portland, and not all of Oregon is Portland, and all Salem, as well as all the towns of the surrounding areas, are going to be much, much different than Portland in many different ways. Another thing you need to know if you're thinking about relocating to the Salem area is that there are new construction communities popping up on every side of town in Salem. We work with buyers on all over the board who are looking for older homes, who are looking for townhomes, condos, new construction, like everything. But one thing I will say is there are new construction communities popping up in every different side of town. West Salem, South Salem, like all over. There's some in Northeast Salem right now that are super affordable. I've done video tours of them recently. You can go find those on my channel. I actually have an entire playlist where I do neighborhood tours and drive through different neighborhoods to give you a feel for what the landscapes look like in different neighborhoods and sides of town and all of that. So go check that out after this video if you haven't already. But there's even a new construction community over in the northeast side of Salem where you can get homes for just over $400,000 that are brand new, which is super cool. And that's like, for our area, that's a good price. So there are new construction homes as well as non-new construction homes with big mature trees. Like you can find whatever it is that you're looking for, we can help you find it. Another thing about Oregon to know that is a negative thing is the national average for like cost of living here overall is pretty high if you compare it to many places in the United States. Now, we still get people relocating here from so many different states that are much less expensive because they want to live in Oregon and they're willing to pay more to live here. And we also have people that move from more expensive states like California and they think it's cheap here. So we get people relocating here all over the board, but just know the national average is a little bit higher compared to many places. Well, as someone who has lived in Salem my entire life, I've been able to see the growth of Salem quite a bit. And I can say that Salem has a lot of new businesses popping up all over on all sides of town. It's very like local business heavy, I think you could say, which I really, really love as someone who is an entrepreneur, a business owner myself. And another thing is we're an area where we are a town, Salem specifically, that does not just have a bunch of like big box chain restaurants. We do like Applebee's or Red Robin or Olive Garden. Now we do have those. We have plenty of chain coffee shops, chain restaurants, all of that. But while we do have those, we also are very, very, very local business, local restaurant, especially heavy. And we have some really, really great local restaurants right here in Salem on every side of town. I never have a problem when I want to go get something good to eat. If I want to go to a fun or a cool restaurant, like, I personally don't have a problem. Obviously, if you're coming from somewhere like Portland, you're used to way more options, and you might think there's not as much, but for the size of the town, we have about 178,000 residents or so at the time of filming this here in Salem specifically. Like, we do have quite a few local restaurants, especially when I compare it to other towns I visit that are of similar size, if that makes sense. So that's something that I really love, is just the like local business culture in general. Salem is very supportive of local businesses. There's a lot of like creatives here, and I just think it's a great place to run a business, and it's a great place to be a homeowner. Okay, I love owning a home in Salem, and I think the homes here, specifically in Salem, really do hold their value, and I'm excited about the future of Salem. I think it's continuing to grow, but I think that's a positive thing. Well, some people might not like that. It's growing in number. That also means it's growing in businesses. It's growing in things to do. And like I said, new things popping up, new businesses, new restaurants, new places to go, new things to do, new construction communities, new townhome communities, new condo buildings. They're popping up on every side of town. And to me, that's like fun and fresh and exciting. And I love living in a town where you get to watch that happen. So, thanks for watching this video. If you watched it all the way through, hit the thumbs up button. Also, guys, like I said, if you are considering relocating to Salem or just buying a house in Salem or any of the surrounding areas, I'd love to work with you. I'll put my email address below. Shoot me an email, and I'm excited to talk to you very soon.